gonna get out of here. I know we gotta go home, but I just wanted to drop something on you real quick. God had told me a little while ago. He said, I'm the God of demonstration. So by faith, if you believe in me, you gotta see what I told you I was gonna do. So I was like, God, what you mean? God was like, I'm able to perform at all times. You just gotta build your faith up to see it. Anybody ready to see God do some stuff? I said that was a little weak. I said, anybody ready to see God demonstrate some stuff for you? This is gonna be your theme song for days and days to come. You ready? Here it is. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see it. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see it. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see it. He's the God of demonstration. Oh, by faith, you're gonna see God come through. You're gonna see God make ways. You're gonna see your friends healed. You're gonna see your family delivered. Anybody ready to see what he got? Anybody ready to see what he got? You gotta believe it, yes you do. Yes, you will see it. Take a praise break. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see. He's the God of demonstration. As long as you keep your faith, you will see. He's the God of coming through. All you gotta do is wait, cause you may not see it right now, but I believe in a couple of days you will. You will see. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see. He's the God of demonstration, so you will. You will see. He's the God of demonstration. So by faith, you will see. Y'all gonna be singing that on your way home. I declare, you will see. I see y'all. Oh, you will. He's a God of demonstration.
Grace and peace be multiplied unto you. Thank you for joining us for another Walking Through the Word Bible class experience. We appreciate you and certainly thank you for joining and hanging out with us for these next 25 to 30 minutes as we continue to expound upon the Word of God in this season. And then thank you to each of our individuals who are participating, who have participated with the prayer walks that are happening throughout our community. We are certainly grateful to what God is doing, and we believe in the power of prayer. And thank you for hinging and connecting to those individuals who have coordinated the effort for prayer for the month of July on giving corners, on different corners in our community. And so we are grateful for your efforts and your diligence. Thank you to our intercessors for participating in such. I want to again continue to embark upon this study that we are engaged in. I think it's beneficial to us in our everyday walk with Christ, but not only that, in our everyday movement with mankind and humanity. The challenge of this particular series is causes us to focus in on not what's around us or not what's happening around us, but to challenge us as individuals to continue to ask ourselves, why do I do certain things? Why do I respond a certain way? And it becomes a challenge. It's the matter of the heart. And so I wanted to continue just to scratch the surface of what what happens to individuals and why we respond, react, or do certain things and feel a certain way. And so the challenge for each of us is to have a clear evaluation of ourselves, but to look deeply within to try to discover why is it that I'm at this place? Why is it do I feel this way? Why did I respond like that? Why did I react that way? And why is it that every time something happens or words are spoken, that it bothers me to a certain level? And so that's a challenge, I think, for each of us as we continue to strive for improvement, to strive to get better in our personal walk. And so I wanted to look at on this walking through the word experience. I wanted to look at James chapter 3. James chapter 3 is where I want to build again this argument and look at this from this biblical account and record to see if we can find some nuggets or some principles and precepts that challenge us in our area, in our personal lives for the sake of improvement. And the challenge is you got to ask yourself, here is what you've got to ask yourself. One of the questions that we want to ask, do I want to get better? Do I want to get better? But then you got to ask yourself, is there a need for me to get better? Or have you already arrived at the place where you think you've maximized improvement? Isn't that interesting? Where you think you have maximized improvement. And any individual who feels like they have maximized improvement, they are really dangerous to be around simply because they'll never see you in the light of improving. They'll always see you in the light of beneath them or under them because you are, quote unquote, not where they think they are. I notice I didn't say where they really are, but where they think they are. And so the challenge for us is to ask ourselves, am I improving every day? Am I improving? Am I getting better? Does the same stuff annoy me, frustrate me, make me want to react, respond, and do certain things? Or am I improving? That's the question that you want to ask, and I want us to evaluate, am I improving? Another thing that we want to look at, and I think is critical for the study of this text tonight, is that the question becomes, who are you promoting? Who are you promoting? Again, all of this is the matter of the heart, and we want to present these questions so as we're studying, we begin to answer questions that we've asked so we can come up with tangible answers that'll help us on this journey. And so we want to ask ourselves these particular questions. Who am I promoting? Who am I promoting? Have I arrived to the place where I am on this kick of self-promotion, where I'm engulfed in myself and what I think, feel, and how things need to go? Because if it doesn't go that way, and then anything that goes against what I am self-promoting, then I want to create conflict, rivalry, and issues because I am at a place of self-promotion. And so you've got to ask yourself, who am I? Who am I promoting? And so let's look at James chapter 3, verse number 13, and then verse number 14 for the sake of our study together for this walking through the word experience. Here it is. James chapter 3, verse number 13 speaks on this wise. Who is a wise man and endowed with knowledge among you? Question. Who is it? James wants to know, have you identified who among you is wise? And if you are wise, who among you are endowed with wisdom and knowledge among you? Do we have any person or individual who's wise, who is endowed with knowledge? Isn't it amazing that even when we talk about the matters of the heart, that knowledge is important, wisdom is important, even when we discuss the matters of the heart, when we discuss the matters on why we respond a certain way, because in all that we do, we should be able to at least answer, I responded this way because. Why? Because we should have the knowledge, if not of anybody else, we should have knowledge and wisdom concerning ourselves. It's a sad commentary, or it's a sad thing when you don't know you. It's a sad thing when you don't know you. Note this, if you will. It's more of an issue when you know you, but when you won't acknowledge who you really are. You won't acknowledge who you really are. And so James asks this question. He says, who is wise? Who is a wise man and endowed with knowledge among you? He says, if in fact they are among you, then their behavior should reflect their wisdom and their knowledge. He says, yeah, their behavior should reflect their wisdom and their knowledge. And here's a question for you. With all that you know, with all the wisdom that God has given you, does your behavior align with what you know and how wise you really are? You got to ask yourself the question again. These are moments of self-evaluation. These are moments of self-reflection. In this series, you can't look at anybody else because you're going to be too busy trying to look at yourself. And if you have wisdom and knowledge, then what proves that you have this wisdom? What proves that you have this knowledge? The text says, if any man is wise and endowed with knowledge among you, here's what he says: let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. That's what James says. He says, if that's the case, then your behavior should be of such where, number one, when people hear you talk, they hear the good in your conversation. But anytime you just have conversation alone, that's not enough. Because we can make our mouths say anything. As a matter of fact, we can talk it, but can we really demonstrate that which we talk? We can say it, but can we really align our behavior with what we say? And James says, let him show, here it is, out of good conversation, but not only his good conversation, but the text says his works with meekness of wisdom. His works with meekness of wisdom. In other words, his behavior, your actions, they demonstrate the wisdom and the knowledge that you possess. His actions, his conversation. Because you cannot get to the place where you think that any conversation or anything that you say, just anything you let roll off of your mouth, that is okay. I think we're in a season where we have to be strategic about what we say. Why is that, Johnson? Are we operating in fear or scare? No. Strategic because what I say is also giving you the leadway to inform you of what I'm getting ready to do. Because when I say it, guess what? My actions are soon to follow. I think one of the biggest issues we have, especially in 21st Christendom, is that our conversation doesn't align with our commitment. Our conversation doesn't align with our commitment. Well, what's our commitment, Pastor Johnson? I asked the question, are you getting better? Do you see a need for self-improvement? Who are you promoting? And if you have conversation, is your conversation all about you, or are you having conversation on how we can improve? And then when you have that conversation, are you moving from conversation to action? Are you moving from conversation to action? I hear what you're saying, because when we get emotional, we say things. When we get angry, we say things. When we get frustrated, we say things. Where do those things derive from? They come from the inner man, and they come from the matter of the heart. And so you have to make sure that you're strategic about what you say. In other words, we've got to learn how to challenge our emotions, or to keep our emotions and feelings out of certain things, because even though we say it, we have to come back later and say we don't mean it. Why? Because it wasn't any good. And so what's the challenge? Challenge thus is this, then, my friend. Strategic in our conversation, meaning have good conversation. Because the hope for good conversation is that good conversation that leads you into good behavior, good conduct, a road to get better. And so I'm speaking it because I am getting ready to arrive at the place that I'm discussing. Are you tired of people talking? Everything is a conversation. Everybody want to have a conversation, but nobody wants to have any actions, just conversations. Are you saying, Pastor, conversations are not important? No, I didn't say that, because that's where we begin to establish what we're going to do. We establish through our conversation, through our commitments, that, okay, this is what we need to do, strategic about what we need to do. And in this case, we're talking about improving the matter of the heart. And so you've got to first acknowledge through your conversation that I've got a heart issue, or I've got some heart issues. And then when you acknowledge that through conversation, now you're saying, I know this is no good for me, and what I am going to do now is get on a course to change what I have confessed was no good. But the problem with many of us is that we don't want to confess when it's no good. As a matter of fact, we rather go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You can be wrong as two left shoes, and to some people that may not be wrong. But you understand the cliche that you should have a right one and a left one. That's the norm. But to some people, they may want to wear two left ones, and that's on them. But they have to acknowledge that the shoe was designed from the originator to wear a left one and a right one because of the makeup of your foot. And so you at least have to acknowledge, I made this choice, not because it's the best choice, but I made it because that's what I wanted to do. And I'd rather in 21st century Christendom that we mature to that place where we say, yep, I did that because that's what I wanted to do. And we also need to acknowledge, and I know that wasn't beneficial to anybody. That's a mature place. From that place, we can get better. But when you don't acknowledge through conversation where you are, there'll never be a transition to improve in your conduct or in your behavior. James says, if anybody is there, in meekness of wisdom, have good conversation, let his works align with that. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Here's the problem. It's in verse number 14. Here's where I want to pitch the tent. He says, but if you have bitter, envying, and strife in your hearts, he says, glory not, and lie not against the truth. That's what he says. Three things you see there: bitter, envying, and strife. Look at the location of those things in your heart. in your heart. Because when something gets in your heart, it can rest there if you don't check it and make some effort to remove it. Can't nobody else do it. Can't nobody else make it happen. Once a thing gets in your heart, it will rest there until the carrier of it decide it doesn't want it there anymore. And so what I'm suggesting to you is that the matter of the heart is solely based upon the individual and what he or she decides is going to remain or what you're going to release. The text says, but if you have bitter, envying, and strife in your hearts, how then are you going to function? Here's what's going to happen. Chances are all of these that are resting in your heart are going to lead you to a place of egotistical thinking, of self-promotion. And anytime you're going to start self-promoting, you don't care. You don't care who you minimize in your place of self-promotion. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to cause danger, hurt, and harm to other people because of what remains and what you have not released. No one benefits when your heart is full of bitter, envying, and strife. No one can benefit. Why? Because when you're at this place, your zeal is at a place of self-promotion, and you're deciding you're bigger than anything or anyone else around you. And so it doesn't matter who wins. To you, it doesn't matter, who loses as long as you win. It's a dangerous place. We cannot function as a community, as a church, as a society when self-promotion has become the focus of humanity. We can't win. We can't survive because self-promotion says I'm bigger than you and I'm better than you. And you have to watch people, especially in Christendom, because you think, never confuse the zeal or excitement of an individual based upon just external factors. Because some individuals will have zeal and excitement all because they're working for self-promotion. Why? Because in their hearts, they have decided that it was about them. Why did they make that decision? Why did they make that decision? Because they couldn't see beyond their desires and what they needed. And when you can't see beyond what you need, and when it seems as if nobody's supplying what you need, the first thing happens is that you get bitter. You get bitter. Bitter people are individuals who've decided I'm not getting what I want, and therefore if I got to make it happen for myself, I'm going to be mad with everybody else while I'm trying to make it happen for me, even though nobody tried to stop you from making it happen in the first place. Isn't that amazing? Bitterness. It settles in the heart. In everything you do it from a place of anger and frustration with everybody around you. Why? Because you've allowed bitterness to settle in. You allow bitterness to settle in. And guess what? When you allow bitterness to set in, look at what happens. Everybody you see, everything you see, you have a critical eye of it or you criticize it. Why? Because now envy has attached itself to bitterness. And the reality is You don't want to see anybody else get ahead because bitterness and envy have connected in your heart, and therefore it's hard for you to see or celebrate anybody else because of how your heart now has been twisted with bitter and envy. Look at that. Because this is what remains. Why did this happen? Why did this happen? Because anytime you don't set out to improve, anytime, my brothers and sisters, you don't set out to improve, and everything around you seems to be improving, you start looking and figuring out, well, why am I not getting ahead? Why am I not succeeding? And instead of you saying, I need to get better, you start looking at other people, and all of a sudden now there's a bitterness toward other people because you feel like they're leaving you behind, when in reality you decided not to improve or move. See how it works? And so the challenge becomes, remember we asked, are you getting better? Because if you're not getting better, chances are you are subject to get bitter. If you're not getting better, there's a likelihood of you getting bitter. Why? Because other people around you could be getting better. And if you've decided not to get better and just allow bitterness to set in, look at what happens. Envy shows up in your heart. You become envious of everybody else. You have a critical eye of everybody else's behavior but yours. Isn't that amazing? Your level of criticism has become at a place where there's no return for you, because everything you see now, you see it from a critical eye. Why? Why? Because bitterness has penetrated the heart. And because there's envy, guess what you bring into the environment? Here it is. You bring in strife. It's right here in verse number 14. Look at how the heart is being ripped apart with no good, things that are no good for you. You bring strife. You do understand what strife is. You start toying and making sure that there's conflict in the environment to make sure every time you speak, you're working against connecting, and you want to see disconnect. Why? Because bitter and envy is in your heart, and now you want to make sure that there's strife in the environment. You ever ran into people that no matter what they do or say, they're going to create strife? Nobody's working harmony. And I believe domestically is why we've got to go back and look at the home model. Have we raised children who have become bitter? Have we raised children who we have not taught? Don't be envious. Have we raised children who only want to operate in strife? And that's why you get dangerous communities, because we failed in our domestic endeavors. And so the challenge becomes for us, how do we change our domestic narrative so that we can change a community? Is it possible that we saw some behaviors early on that we ignored and we tried to cover up, we tried to laugh at, and bitterness set in, envy set in, and then before you know it, you had raised an individual who's full of strife, waiting for conflict, itching for conflict, wants something to go wrong, needs something to go wrong, because that's all they know. We're challenged now that if we're going to improve, it's because we do it with purpose. If we're going to get better, if our hearts are going to change, it's going to be because we've decided, nope, I'm not going to feel that way. I'm not going to be bitter. I've got to be mature. I'm not going to be envious. I got to be mature. I have to be mature. I'm not going to operate in strife and look for conflict and get joy when people are at each other. I'm not. Here's what happened. Here's what the text says. I got to run. Here's what the text says. He says, listen, but if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth. Because that's what happens. When you arrive at bitter envy and strife, guess what you neglect? You neglect truth. And anything that's truthful, you kick against. Why? Because you can't go beyond the bitterness and the envy and strife that's been established in your heart. Everybody's wrong but you. Nobody else is telling the truth. And so you convince yourself through a messed up heart that everything else around you is wrong and you're the only person that's right. Do you need to improve? Are you improving? Who are you promoting? Who are you promoting? What about the God that's in you? Is he on display? Are you demonstrating him? Because these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves as we strive, people of God, for betterment and to look at our hearts. Before you respond, ask yourself the question, why do I feel this way? Acknowledge it. And then if you have a principle that you want to stand on that's truthful, then guess what? I encourage you to do that. But if it's going to cause damage to other people, chances are, because truth is good for everybody, if it's going to damage other people, then you got to pause and ask yourself, wait a minute. Is it my truth or is it the truth? There is a difference. Thank you for hanging out with me for what has been 28, 29 minutes of teaching. Listen, come back next week as we continue to strive for this improving, trying to improve ourselves and trying to make sure that we're challenging our hearts. Sister Johnson is coming with our announcements. Until next week, God bless you and thank you for being a Hill Watcher.
Heard on tonight. We certainly appreciate you. Join us for Sunday school at 9 a.m. via conference call every Sunday. Mount Calvary is open for in-person worship. You must wear your mask, sign in, and get your temperature taken for worship service. CDC guidelines will be enforced. Join us on next Wednesday, July 21st, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. for community prayer at Country Brook in Gramercy. We will not have in-person Bible class for the month of July, but please log on for virtual Bible class. We will see you there. Men, wear your suits. Women, wear your big brim hats for worship on Sunday, August the 1st, 2021. Pastor Johnson is asking Mount Calvary to wear your Sunday best. If you do not have it, please don't let that stop you for showing up for worship. Our annual church conference will be held on Friday, August the 20th, 2021 at Hunter's Haven on Bloomington Road from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. On Saturday, August 21st, 2021 at 8:15 a.m. here at the church. Immediately following that session, we will have a gas giveaway, followed by a parking lot celebration and community giveaway. On Sunday, August 22nd, 2021 at 11 o'clock a.m. for morning worship. Pastor Johnson has some awesome speakers lined up for the weekend. There will be classes for all ages. Please register to be a part of this great weekend. The ministry seed for this weekend will be $100 for adults and $25 for all youth. This will include everything for the entire weekend. If you are interested in being a part of the Church Anniversary Committee scheduled for February 2022, please see Minister John Young immediately following morning worship on Sunday. To purchase Pastor Johnson's first book project, Looking Within, please go to lakivcjohnson.com, amazon.com, kobo.com, Barnes & Noble, or you can see me. Thank you. Have an amazing Wednesday.